Yes guys, just a quick demo doing some shading on this face. So I've left the face sort of towards the end so I could demonstrate some of the softer shading. When I'm doing these brush strokes landing on and off the skin, you'll notice that I can manipulate the direction that I'm sending or travelling the needle in all different directions to get into those sections. So at this stage when you're doing softer shading, you're constantly assessing your reference image and checking over what you're doing. The good thing about it when you're taking your time is it builds up progressively. So you're not kind of like ramming the shading in or anything. Everything's quite gentle and it will like slowly develop and come together. What I'm doing is I'm following some of these contour lines what I've drew on my stencil and I'm starting to develop. So I'll be working on this shading using a 50% saturated ink pot and then also down to one that has 30% in. These other shades that are in place that I put in before using 100% saturated ink, so I just carefully mapped in some of these darker shades which I was then going to develop out now with my softer shades. So see where it's thinner here, I can curve this round and I don't know how well you can see it, but I'm literally only gliding those needles ever so slightly into the skin, and what I'm doing is I'm assessing it with the pressure that I can feel in my hand from the machine, and by judging this I can adjust my pressures slightly to get different effects on the skin. So where I need to get the shading in a little bit firmer I can increase the pressure a little bit, and then where I need to be more gentle and more delicate that's where I lighten my touch. So from here I'm curving the needle round, you can see the shadings curving round. Anytime the needle's contacting the skin, every single time it touches the skin it's already moving. This is very important because if I land into the skin with the machine still and then move, I can end up leaving sort of a harsh edge where my needle's contacted the skin. So by keeping that movement when I land on the skin, I'm getting seamless blends. Again, there's a little section here where there's a complete gap between the mouth and this shaded patch, so I can work along that edge, and that's where I am angling my machine off a little bit to the right. I'm using a 15 curved mag at the moment for this. With any shading section that I am doing, I can come back to things, so I can build things up to a certain extent and then I can revisit it by moving somewhere else, developing some shading in that area and then coming back to it if need be. So whenever I do shading demonstrations, you will see me moving around quite a bit. So just on the mouth, on the reference image, this is curving round into a little point and then it's going back contouring again on the other side. So again, by angling my machine off to the left, I'm allowing the needles on this edge to contact the skin first. That's giving a prominent line. You can see there I've followed that line and it's leaving like a nice shaded line in there. So I can do the same on the other side, coming back. Just work along there and then start to develop that forward. So I don't voice over these demos, guys. I'm saying this on the go, so if my voice sounds a bit boring, it's the concentration. Someone commented that, saying, why are you speaking like that? Yes, we're being mindful not to sort of overshade things as well. Again, anything you're doing, anything you're shading, any piece that you're working on, you're interpreting that shading. So you're looking at your reference image and you're trying to sort of match whatever you're shading and whatever you're developing to the picture that you're looking at. So the more blended tones there is on the image, the more you have to sort of move around and just make sure that you're getting them accurate. As I'm going over this several times, I have actually lightened my pressure from them first passes that I did, because what I'm doing is I'm building out the shade a little bit more. So the initial few passes where I'm mapping it in, I'm pressing on a bit firmer. So I'm just moving to this section under the eye now. I'm going to swap to a 21 in a second and just start to bring across this shading into some of those bigger areas. Whenever you're shading and getting into tight gaps, so whenever you're shading and getting into tight gaps, that's where you will angle your machine. So along this edge I can manipulate, I can make that angle quite extreme and I can have a really shallow path along that line. Just going into the 21 now. So on some of these lighter sections now I'm going to be working in my last two pots, so a 30% wash and then one that's got a couple of drops in. I'll be moving between the two to get the shading to where I need it. So on this section here there's a little gap, so I'm just going to curve that round to meet this bit. I'm going to glide this right over that part of the eye. Just curving, and again I'm still gliding on and off the skin back and forth. It's very subtle because when I lift out the skin it's barely lifting the needle up at all. The needle's just literally hovering above the skin and then sailing back in. And then curving that back round. So this section here, that sort of shaded highlight on the face. What's that, like that? The back in there. So when I'm gliding with these lighter tones, I'm still going to eat back into this bit, so I'll be gliding over that, and what that's doing is it's just sort of merging the shading sections together, and it's still keeping that shape intact because I'm only going over it with a lighter wash. So the face is actually quite light, so there's going to be some sections completely left as skin, just to make that face pop out. So the darker sections on the ears and stuff like that seem more prominent. I'll give it a clean in a sec, guys, as well, so you can have a look where we're up to. Just gliding back through this. So like I said before, when I'm revisiting stuff, that's because I've come down a tone now. So because I've come into a lighter tone, I can come back to these other sections, what I've missed before, and redevelop them a little bit more with this next layer of shading. It's the same with this bit here. Just from that bottom bit there, I'm just going to glide a bit of shading round. There is a temptation when you're shading out a tattoo to kind of put shading everywhere, but you do want to try and stick as close as you can to your reference image. Same with this bit in the centre of the tongue. So that comes back on itself, background there with a soft shade. And then that curves around more. So you'll notice when I'm going back over stuff more, it's like I'm connecting things up. And when I'm blending out the shading more, things start to come together and you're just smoothing out any patchiness, what you've left with your last layer of shading. So I'm just wiggling little circles there to create like a thin narrow whisper shading along here, and then I can shade off that. And back into this middle bit. I'll always be travelling in different directions as well. When I'm building out shading, I'll be visiting all the different sections that I'm trying to bring together, and I'll be building the shading and the blending out by travelling in different directions. Just going to come back to the 15. So I'll be using circular motions to tighten this little section here, and then as it curves round I can use the thinner part of the needle, so rather than travelling forward I'm going at like a diagonal angle to create this section of shading. You can see it building up slowly. And same on the other side. Small circles, nice and gentle though, to tuck in that little curved shape, and then I can come back from the top part to connect it up. I know, we're going to stop in a sec. Just going to bring this little bit together. Where's the red out? Yeah, you can see it starting to come together now. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come down to the bottom part of the mouth down here. So there is a little thin section along the bottom of the lip, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to handrail this part. I'm going to handrail the bit below the lip and let my needles pass across that line, and you'll see it start to develop there. Again with this, I'm not trying to create it too dark or anything like that. So a couple of passes. I am in my lighter washes at this stage though, guys. Going to dip back into my 50% for a second now to develop out the bottom part of this. So that's a big one, guys, dip in between your pots while you're shading. It does require a bit of experience to get good at this, but you can manipulate the strength of the ink in your tube by going between your pots on the go. So I'll always be dipping, and sometimes I'll jump straight from my full black down to one of the lighter pots to really saturate down that ink in the tube. Nearly done with this bit now. So when you are moving around a lot and developing it, you'll see things come together, and that's the best way and the best bit of advice I've got to stop you overdoing it in certain areas, and that's keep moving around. So even with this nose that I just shaded out before, I can nip back over and tidy up any little bits. Just feathering out that section as well. So now coming down, right down to my bottom pot, this has got a few drops in. I'm trying to just saturate that ink that's in my tube down now, so I can start to develop out the eyes. But before I go in there, I'm just going to nip over this bit a little bit more. Shading down from there then, and then from the outside of this one. I've left a little gap, which actually these gaps aren't on my reference image, but I've left them because the shading's very similar in terms of shade to the outside bit. So right guys, give that a go. Just give it a clean so you can have a look. And that's it so far. Relax your arm, mate. Relax your arm. Right.